Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kovacs here, Mishnah Yomi for Shabbat Truma, Rosh Chodesh Adar. Aleph Adar today continues in chapter 5 of Shevuot, Mishnayot 4 and 5. Now we had a similar concept last chapter at Shevuot to Edut. If it's a claim for mammon, for financial compensation, then someone swearing they don't know testimony, and here we'll see someone swearing they don't have liability, would be on the hook. If it's a Knas, a penalty, such as the specific penalties written in the Torah, the extra payments if somebody stole and then slaughtered certain animals, then because the person, the perpetrator, could go in and admit in front of court and be off the hook for the penalty, then the oath does not carry liability for denying that obligation. So with that in mind, let's get into Mishnah Daled. Anosta Eupatita et BT. Reuven comes to Shimon and says, Shimon, you have violated or seduced my daughter. Now, these are crimes that carry a 50 shekel fine, a Knas, in the Torah, but the perpetrator can also be sued and found liable for loss of value, for, God forbid, any injury or devaluation to the young woman. She can sue him and recoup damages. So her father is asking the perpetrator to admit liability. V'hu omer lo anasti lo petiti. I did not violate or I did not seduce. He says, mashpiocha ani. Oh yeah, then swear. V'amar amen. And he goes ahead and says, amen, agrees to the oath. Chayev, if he in fact did do these crimes, he is liable also for violating his oath. That's a separate penalty in addition to the penalties that he owes this poor young woman and her family. Rabbi Shimon Poter, Rabbi Shimon says, no, he would not be liable for the oath. Still liable for what he did to this poor young woman, but not liable for the oath. She'enu mishalem knas al pi atzmo, because one does not pay a fine, a knas, if he would admit it to the court. And here, according to Rabbi Shimon, the main thing is that 50 shekel fine that the Torah requires of the me'anes or the mefateh. Amru lo, the other sages told Rabbi Shimon, Afal pi she'enu mishalem knas al pi atzmo, even though if the perpetrator would go and admit his crime to the court, he would not pay the 50 shekel fine, because if you admit, you don't pay the knas, but mishalem boshet upagam al pi atzmo. If he does go ahead and admit, then he can be found liable for the damages of boshet, for the embarrassment, of pagam, and the devaluation. And of course, if God forbid it was really a violation, if there's any pain, any injury, he would definitely be on the hook for that as well. And therefore, according to the sages, since there is a mammon component, a financial compensation component of these damages, then the perpetrator would be liable not only to the young woman and her family, but also for violating an oath if he denied liability. Now on to Mishnah Hay, which has a similar penalty versus compensation component. Ganovta et shori. Reuven says, Shimon, you stole my ox. Homer lo ganavti, says, I did not. Mashbiachani, oh yeah, then swear. Amar amen. Amen. Chayev, if he actually did, he is chayev not only to return the ox, plus, the penalty, but he's liable for breaching his oath. Ganovti, if he says, yeah, I stole the ox, aval, but lo tavachti, lo macharti. I never slaughtered it, I never sold it. Mashbiacha ani, he says, oh yeah, then swear. Amar amen, he says amen. Potter. So now he's potter even if he's swearing falsely and he actually did slaughter or sell the animal. Now recall what the Torah does is if someone steals a sheep or an ox and then goes ahead and resells it or slaughters it, makes a barbecue, they're liable not just for the original value, that's mammon, financial compensation, but also for an additional fine 3 or 4 times extra. So the Torah says he could pay 4 or 5 times the value of the animal in total. So in the second variation, he's admitted the principle, the mammon, the direct damage of stealing the animal, but his oath is only denying the part that would bring a knas, a penalty payment. So even though he's swearing falsely, he's not liable for breaching the oath. He can still be sued for the penalty payment. And actually some of the Rishonim, I think the Rambam brings that he would also be liable for making a Shevuot bitui that was false. So he's not liable Shevuot pikadon specifically with the asham, but he could still be liable for making a vain oath, a false oath. The Mishnah adds another case, Heimit shorcha et shori, your ox killed my ox. Back to Bava Kama time. Hu omer lo heimit, says, no, my ox didn't do nothing. Mashbiachoni, oh yeah, then swear to that effect. Amar amein, he says, amein chayev, if his ox in fact did kill the victim, yeah, then he is liable. Importantly, we're talking about a shor muad, an ox that's been warned. If a muad kills another animal, then it pays full damages, but a shor tam, an animal that this is totally abnormal, it's out of nowhere, the owner had no way of knowing, he was violent, then actually pays half damages, but that's considered a Knas. That's considered a penalty that the Torah requires to try to get owners to guard their animals, even if the animals are not assumed to be violent. So this case is talking about a shor mu'ad. They've warned him that his animal is dangerous 3 times, so it pays full damages. So it's a claim for mammon, for financial compensation, and that's why he's liable for breach of the oath. But what about this? Heimit shorchet ovdi. Your ox killed my Eved Knani. Hu omer lo heimit. No, it didn't. Mashbeachani, then swear. Amar amein, and he agrees to the Shevuot. Potter. He's not liable for paying for it because the penalty for an animal killing an Eved Kanani is actually a Knas because it's a fixed amount stipulated by the Torah at Shloshim Selaim. 30 silver shekels, it could potentially be a lot of money, even more than the face value, but it's a fine fixed by the Torah, so it's not a penalty, a financial compensation of mammon. Amar lo, Reuven tells Shimon, Chavalta bi v'asita bi chabora, you hit me and you did a injury to me. I have medical bills. Hu omer lo chavalti, lo asiti b'chabora. He says, no, I didn't hit you, I didn't do nothing. Mashbiacha oni, oh yeah, then swear to that effect. Amar amein, and he agrees. Chayev, then if in fact he did make an injury, he is liable also for breach of his Shevuot. Amar lo ovdo, if someone's own Eved Kanani. Now keep in mind, at Eved Kanani, he's been to the mikveh, got a milah, he has to observe some mitzvahs, keep kosher, keep Shabbos. He's not Jewish yet, but he's sort of on his way. It's sort of an extended conversion process, as we mentioned before. And the Eved says, he polta et shini, you knocked out my tooth. Simita et eini, you blinded my eye. Or it could be damage to any other limb that's not going to grow back. Hu omer lo hibalti lo simiti. The master says, no, I did not do this damage. I did not knock out the tooth of the eye. Mashbiachani. The Eved says, oh yeah, then swear. Amar amein. Potter. So then, even if he caused the damage, he's potter from the Shevuah. Now he's still liable, and the liability in this case is he has to set this Eved Kanani free. The Eved Kanani becomes a full Jewish normal member of society as a penalty to the master for not being careful and causing damage to this human being. But that's considered a Knas, a penalty that the Torah levies on him, not a compensation. So he's pater on the Shevuah, but of course liable to set this man free. Zeyaklal, this is the general rule. Kol mishalem al pi atzmo chayev. Anytime someone would pay financial damages by admitting liability, then he's also liable for the oath if he swore he didn't have liability. Shainu mishalem al pi atzmo, someone who does not pay financial damages by his own admission, potter. He is not liable if he swore falsely. He's not liable at least on the Shevuah, but again, the Rambam said he could still be liable for Shevuot bitui, even not for Shevuot pikadon. Yishar kochachem, tiskul mitzvot.